My name's Oliver, and 5 years ago, my own son called the cops to throw me out of my house. Said I was trespassing on the porch I built with my bare hands. My name was wiped off the deed, the will, the memories. He told me, ain't nobody want an old man hanging around. I lost my home, my voice, my place at the table. But what breaks a man ain't always what ends him. Sometimes it's what begins something else. So when I heard a knock on my yacht years later, guess who it was? Rain was tapping steady on the window pane like it had been trying to say something all night. I sat there in my old recliner, the one with the busted armrest, the only thing in this house that still felt like mine. Kitchen light spilled dim across the hallway, flickering soft. Same bulb been needing changing for weeks now. I could hear their voices in there, muffled, low, like they thought I couldn't hear. Or maybe they just didn't care no more if I did. Funny thing about storms, they don't warn you before they wash your life away. 1 minute you building something with love, next you sitting in the shell of it, wondering how your own blood turned cold on you. I used to work 2 shifts back to back, just so Malik could have his name stitched on a college jacket. Sold my truck, my pride and joy, so his tuition checks didn't bounce. All them nights I came home too tired to eat, but still showed up to his school plays, sitting in the back with grease on my boots. And now, that same boy whispering in the kitchen, plotting to throw me out like a bag of trash. The door creaked. They stepped in, Malik first, tall and stiff, like he'd been practicing this. Simone trailed him, that half smile she always wore when she knew she was winning something. I looked up at my son, still holding on to the hope he'd say anything else but what I already knew was coming. "Dad," Malik said, not meeting my eye. "You've been here too long. We need our space. You said it'd be just a month." I didn't blink. "Boy, I built this damn house when you couldn't even walk. This space, you're breathing in what I sweated for." Simone stepped forward then, holding a folder. She opened it, casual-like. The deed. My name, crossed out clean. Hers and Malik's, the only names on there now. "It's not about that," she said, sweet as syrup but cold underneath. "It's about peace. For the baby, stress isn't good. Stress." I sat through 12-hour shifts with a busted knee and no health insurance. That's stress. Raising a black boy alone through the 90s in Southside Chicago, tell me about stress. Malik looked me square in the face then. "You're a burden, Dad. This house is ours now. You gotta go." I didn't flinch, just stared at him, like maybe if I looked hard enough, I'd find the boy I raised. The world don't break you, I thought. It's the ones you raise that finish the job. Then he said it, straight up lied. "And we know about the money you took from the joint account." I almost laughed, but it came out dry. "You let her feed you that I stole from my own son?" He didn't answer, just turned his back. That's when Simone tossed something across the room. My old leather watch hit the floor hard. The band cracked. She smirked. "You can keep your memories," she said. Malik walked out, came back with my old duffel bag. Set it down by the front door like I was a guest who'd overstayed. "You're not welcome here anymore." I picked up the bag, my bones protesting. Walked to the porch. Rain met me with open arms. Cold soaked through my coat before I hit the bottom step. I stood there, not moving. Didn't know where I'd go, but I knew I wouldn't beg. Could have called my sister, old friend from the steel mill. But pride. Pride's a heavy thing, heavy enough to keep a man out in the rain. I parked a few blocks away from the old church. Back lot no one checks after dark. Lay back in the seat, jacket over my chest. Windshield lit up from neon gas station signs, blinking red and blue. Stomach growled. I pulled out the sandwich I bought earlier, last $5. "I can be changed by what happens to me," I whispered, remembering Maya Angelou's voice in my head. But I refused to be reduced by it. Phone in my pocket stayed quiet, nobody calling, nobody checking. I reached into the bag and pulled out the broken watch, still ticking, faint but steady, just like me. They shut the door on me, I thought, eyes on the horizon. But I ain't done living. They just forgot who taught them to stand. Headlights swept across the lot. A car slowed, real slow. I sat up a little, heart knocking once. Could have been anyone, but something about the way it paused told me this wasn't random. The cold had a way of sinking in quiet. It wasn't just the weather, It was the kind that reached beneath the skin, made a man feel forgotten. I woke up stiff in the driver's seat, head leaning too long against the window. My neck popped when I moved. Windows were fogged up from my breath, and the glass held thin trails of rain like veins spreading across it. The sandwich from last night sat like dust in my gut, no strength in it, but at least it was something. I looked at the church nearby, silent as always, cross barely visible against the dull orange haze of streetlight. This wasn't the first night I'd slept in my car, but it was the first time it felt like I didn't even belong to myself. Coat still damp, shoes cold, hands cracked and dry. I remembered what Pop used to say. If you leave bleeding, don't come back begging. Real men don't crawl, they climb, even when it's uphill with no shoes. I used to think that was pride talking. Now, I know it was survival. A slow rumble of tires on wet asphalt brought my head up. Lights cut through the fog, soft but direct. A black car, luxury, clean, too clean for this block. It slowed in front of me, engine barely humming. I stiffened up. My first thought, someone coming to move me along, or worse, maybe Malik called someone. The door opened smooth, quiet. A man stepped out holding a leather umbrella, tall and lean, suit pressed sharp even in the rain, navy blue wool with polished shoes that never touched mud. He walked like he didn't expect to be stopped. "Excuse me," he said, voice calm, no urgency. "Are you Oliver Reeves?" I blinked, didn't answer right away. "I'm Jeremiah Wade," he continued, unfolding a small leather wallet with ID. "Estate attorney, New York Bar. I represent the estate of Dr. Virgil Hartwell. May I have a moment?" I didn't move. Name sounded familiar, like something from a book I only read halfway. Wade held out a laminated photo, an old family reunion 1995. I saw myself in the back row, awkward and 20-something. Right beside me was the man, Virgil, reading a book in the middle of a barbecue. "Your great-uncle passed away 2 weeks ago," he said gently. "He's named you sole heir." I laughed. Not out loud, just that dry kind of laugh that lives in your chest. I haven't spoken to Virgil in over 30 years. He was the weird one. Books stacked higher than furniture. Wade nodded. "He never forgot you, Mr. Reeves. And he left behind considerable holdings. Property in Harlem, multiple investment accounts, art, a yacht." "A what?" "A yacht. Savannah Harbor." I squinted at him. "You come all the way from Manhattan in the middle of the night to drop this fairy tale on me?" He didn't flinch, opened a black briefcase and pulled out several documents. Certified copies, death certificate, attorney registration, and the will, all real, all signed. "Every scam starts with a smooth smile and a sad story," I muttered. "I understand your hesitation," he said, "but there is a condition." I stayed quiet. "The will specifies a final message, left for you to view in person, only at the Harlem estate." I crossed my arms. "And if I don't go?" He paused, then said it. "The estate passes to your son, Malik." My jaw clenched. That name carried a weight now, more insult than blood. Wade saw the flicker in my eyes. "It's entirely up to you, but Dr. Hartwell believed you deserved a choice." I stared at him. Rain dripped from the car roof. Inside the church, someone must have left a radio playing. Soft gospel spilled into the night. "Take me to the king. I don't have much to bring." I could have said no. Could have walked away and kept letting life kick me down in silence. But something about the way Wade stood there, still, patient, made me pause. "I'll go," I said, "but I ain't signing nothing till I see it myself." Wade nodded once. "That's exactly what Mr. Hartwell expected you to say." We got into the car, leather seats warm. Silence filled the space between us. As the city lights rolled past the window, I thought to myself, not about the money, but about the insult, about Malik, about what kind of father throws his own out and expects to inherit what he didn't earn. Morning light cut through the windshield like it had something to prove. I opened my eyes to Harlem's skyline, brownstones glowing like they'd been kissed by gold dust. There was a certain kind of beauty in the way the city woke up, slow, stubborn, still proud. Miles Davis played low from the radio, and I didn't have to ask Jeremiah what song it was. Blue and green. The same notes my father let spin in our living room. back when we still had one. We didn't speak, just rode quiet, letting the horns and footsteps of the block speak for us. When the car stopped, I looked up to see a red brick brownstone, tall and wide, with iron gates guarding its history. Hartwell, 1898, etched across the front like a brand. I stepped out, shoes crunching on the path, heart heavier than my suitcase. This house didn't feel like home. It felt like a monument to someone else's pride, and maybe someone else's shame. Mrs. Franklin met us at the door. Tall, gray at the temples, Harlem born and bred in her voice. "Mr. Reeves," she said, like the name still meant something. I hadn't heard it said like that in years, not with respect, not with purpose. Inside, the foyer smelled of polish and time. Portraits stared at me from the walls, Hartwells in pressed suits and powdered collars, light skin, bookish eyes, money behind their smiles. I stopped in front of one. He had my chin, maybe even my jawline, but not my life. He was proud of his people, Mrs. Franklin said softly, catching my stare. Dr. Hartwell spent decades chronicling black excellence. Historians, soldiers, preachers. He never chronicled me, I muttered. Jeremiah cleared his throat and gestured toward the study. We moved through a room soaked in sun and silence. Books piled high like they'd been waiting on me to touch them. The lawyer read the will slow, deliberate. Every word stacked up like a weight on my chest. "To my nephew, Oliver Reeves, I leave everything." I laughed, not loud, but long enough. "Man leaves me an empire when I couldn't scrape enough change for lunch yesterday." "It's all verified," Jeremiah said. "Documents filed, witnessed. This ain't charity, Oliver." Mrs. Franklin handed me a small wooden box. Wax seal still intact. My name scratched across the lid in Virgil's hand. I didn't open it. Not yet. Jeremiah fiddled with an old camcorder, set it down on the desk. Static blinked before a face filled the screen. Dr. Virgil Hartwell. Hair silver, voice steady, eyes that didn't flinch. "If you're seeing this, Oliver, I'm gone, but not silent. You were done wrong. By me. By our family. I should have written. Should have called. But pride, son. Pride'll make a fool out of a good man." I didn't move. Just watched. "You're my heir. But this ain't just about property. I built the Hartwell Community Clinic in Savannah to serve the forgotten. It died when I turned my back. I'm asking you to fix what I broke. Reopen it. Run it. Bring it back for the people." The screen went black. I didn't cry. I'd done that already. Instead, I stood up, walked slow around the room, letting my fingers brush old wood and dusty frames. "You left me wealth," I said under my breath. "But what I needed was a reason." I slipped the wax seal into my pocket. Something about it felt sacred, like it meant the start of something bigger than me. We packed up in silence. Just as we reached the front door, Jeremiah's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then handed it over. The headline hit like a punch. "Community activist accused of misusing Hartwell grant funds. Malik Reeves." My son. My name. The air shifted, cold now, heavy. I stared at the screen, the truth clawing up my throat. I left Chicago to escape my past, but looks like my past found a way to cash in on my name. By the time we rolled into Savannah, the sun sat high and harsh. The heat didn't just hang, it clung. Jeremiah parked in front of a faded brick building with cracked steps and weeds pushing through every edge. The sign out front, Hartwell Community Clinic, looked like it hadn't been cleaned in years. On the side wall, a mural of black leaders, Dr. King, Shirley Chisholm, Malcolm, peeled like forgotten promises. Dana met us out front, smiling like she was trying to cover a bruise. Young, polite, professional. She said she was the assistant director of the foundation. "We've had a tough year, but we're building back. You'll see." I nodded, but my stomach already knew something wasn't right. Inside, the place felt hollow. Waiting room had folks slouched on mismatched chairs, fanning themselves under a busted ceiling fan. No AC. Paint flaking. One young volunteer handed out bottled water, and when he heard my last name, he looked at me like I was someone important. I didn't feel it. Not in here. Dana showed us down a hallway that smelled of mildew and old regrets. She pulled a folder from a file cabinet. "Here's the financial summary. Might help explain why the renovation's behind." I flipped through the pages, but the numbers didn't sit right. Some expenses looked bloated, like someone had taken a small job and tripled the cost. Jeremiah leaned in closer. "What's this?" I asked, pointing to a line item. "Reeves Community Advancement, LLC. Monthly payments. Big ones. Consistent." Dana blinked. "That's the consulting arm. I thought you—" I cut her off. "That's not mine. Never was." Jeremiah already had his phone out. A few taps later, he looked up, face tight. "It's registered in Atlanta, under Malik Reeves." I didn't say anything for a moment, just stared at the papers like they might rearrange themselves and tell a different story. He used my name, my legacy, took the burden and flipped it for profit. For what? We stepped into the conference room. It was cooler there. AC probably worked only where donors might visit. On the far wall hung a framed article. "Young Black Leader Revives Historic Clinic with Family Legacy." The photo showed Malik grinning, shaking hands with the mayor, standing under a shiny new logo. Hartwell Heals. Dana cleared her throat. "So, he's your son?" I nodded, jaw clenched. "He's the one who told me not to come to his wedding. Said I was just a relic. Said I'd only get in the way." She looked embarrassed, like someone who realized they'd bet on the wrong horse but smiled through it anyway. We left the clinic and found a diner up the road. Quiet booth, cold tea. I stirred mine slowly, watching the ice melt like years slipping away. Jeremiah broke the silence. "You've got legal grounds? Embezzlement? Fraud? You could—" I shook my head. "He don't need prison. He needs to face me, man to man. I want him to say it, to my face, why he did this." Jeremiah leaned in. "He's attending the city gala this week. Young Black Entrepreneurs. Big event. His name's on the list." I looked up for the first time. "Then he gonna see the ghost he thought he buried." We paid and stood to leave. As we stepped outside, Dana came jogging across the lot, holding a cream-colored envelope. "This came to the clinic. It's for you. From the mayor's office." Inside, the card felt heavy, expensive. "You are cordially invited to the Savannah Legacy Gala, honoring Mr. Oliver Reeves." I stared at it, heart ticking slow and heavy. If legacy's the game he want to play, then let's see if he's ready for the real man behind the name. I stepped out of Jeremiah's car into the dusk air of Southside Chicago. Streets quiet, streetlights humming in the distance. Wind stirred loose leaves, sending them dancing across cracked sidewalks. The smell of rain lingered, mixed with old asphalt and memories. I passed my old house, windows boarded up, yard overgrown, and my chest tightened. Home used to be refuge. Now it's just the place your ghosts follow you. Jeremiah drove past the church I used to worship in, past the corner market I helped ice its freezer when business was slow. Everything's the same, and nothing is. We settled into a booth at a small cafe up the block. Jeremiah spread out the ledger from Hartwell Clinic across the table. I leaned in, eyes scanning. The entries looked too neat, too clean. "How many times you gonna ride my name and leave me begging?" I said. Heat rose in my voice. The ledger showed clinic renovation funds, but the money was missing. Funds diverted to a company I never heard of. My finger traced Reeves Community Advancement, LLC. Dana's reports claimed delays and restructuring, but that line item was out of place. The address listed was for an Atlanta condo, not a clinic utility. Jeremiah pulled up public records. My heart dropped when I saw the name. Malik Reeves. My own son, linking my legacy to a shell company. I clenched my fist in my coat, the broken watch in my pocket biting against my palm. He used my name, my reputation to feed his ambition. Betrayal doesn't hit the heart first. It hits the mind, twisting it until you question everything. Later that evening, Naomi called. Her voice cracked. "Lee, your doctor called me. They found something." My heart froze. She read lab results, early signs of kidney damage, manageable if caught now. But manageable means time, and time may not always favor us. I swallowed. I'd ignored dizzy spells, fatigue, cold sweats for months. I told Naomi, "I'm going in. No more hiding." She sobbed. I swallowed again. By night, I walked my old block, lights low, windows dark. My phone was quiet. I stared at empty lots where row houses used to stand. I remembered Malik's graduation speech. "Thank you, Mom, for being my foundation." I can still hear it echo. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you, someone else." Doubt crept in. Maybe he was right to move on. Maybe I wasn't enough to build a father's pride. But then I remembered Virgil's message, the wax seal, the clinic, the watch. Those things spoke louder than shame. I forced my shoulders square. No more silence. When I got home, the answering machine had one message. Malik Reeves demanded a meeting, Friday, Savannah, 7 p.m. He had the audacity to summon me. I replayed it twice, letting it echo in the empty room. My eyes fell to the broken watch on my dresser, its hand still moving, a quiet witness to everything I endured. If he wants to see me, he'll come to Savannah. But I'll bring a contract of truth. The apartment smelled like old wood and unopened mail. I dropped my keys, set the watch gently on the counter, and just stood there. The silence in that room felt louder than the city outside. Then came the knock. It wasn't loud, just enough to let me know it wasn't the wind. I opened the door, and there she was, Naomi. Her hair was tied back, strands of gray shining in the porch light. She held a duffel bag in one hand, a worn folder in the other. Her eyes, they still had that same fire, but it looked like it had been burning alone for too long. I should have reached out sooner, she said, voice low. But I had to find my own strength first. I stepped aside. Let her in. My throat dry, heart unsure. She placed the folder on the table and sat down slow, like her bones remembered something they'd been holding too long. I found these, she said, opening the folder. Letters, receipts, things you didn't want anyone to see. Photos, yellowed check stubs, loan papers. One after another. I picked up a receipt, one I'd buried long ago. The date hit first, the amount next. I remembered selling that Buick to cover tuition for Malik, then a loan he needed just to get started. Another showed money sent to a scholarship fund under the Hartwell name. I whispered without realizing it. So all those years I wasn't broke. I was just giving until there was nothing left. Naomi didn't speak. She just watched, her face soft, but her jaw stayed firm. Later that night I called Malik, didn't even know what I wanted from it. Maybe answers, maybe just to hear his voice. It rang 4 times. Then his voice hit the line like ice. What are you doing back in Chicago? Looking for pity? I clenched my jaw. I'm calling for what's mine. But before that, I need truth. He laughed, not loud, but like he was shaking his head. You ever think maybe community money couldn't fix what you failed to be? I swallowed hard. You used my name to build. Then you buried me under the bricks. He didn't reply. Naomi sat across the room, quiet, but I knew she heard every word. By morning, things moved fast. She made a call to Ms. Franklin in Savannah, told her to prep the clinic, told her to make it public. That same day, a local news truck showed up outside the old Hartwell building, cameras rolling, press release in hand. Hartwell Clinic to reopen under the guidance of Oliver Reeves. My face was nowhere on that paper, but Malik's was, big smile, shaking hands with city officials like he built the thing from dust. Naomi gripped my hand. They're making you the face now. Don't let them turn you into a puppet. I didn't say much. I just looked out the window. You could see the clinic's mural from where we sat. Faded, chipped, but still standing. That night, Naomi left a sealed envelope on the kitchen counter. Came in today, she said, slipping her coat back on. You should open it. She didn't wait for me to say anything, just walked out the door like she had somewhere to be, like she trusted I'd know what to do next. The envelope was stiff, expensive paper. Return address stamped, Hartwell Foundation, Savannah. I held it for a long time before breaking the seal. Inside was a single page, typed. You have until sunset tomorrow to accept or be erased from the will. That was it. No signature, no apology, no grace, just a deadline. I looked out the window again. Skyline burned orange. Time bleeding into night. Time wasn't no ally anymore. They dressed the place like royalty was coming. Gold banners, linen tablecloths, Hartwell logos hanging from every beam in that Savannah hall. I walked in slow black suit, stiff at the shoulders, eyes already on me before I made it 5 steps. Folks whispered, some nodded. A few stared like they were trying to put my face next to the name on the pamphlet. Naomi walked beside me, chin high. Jeremiah stayed a few paces back, eyes sharp as ever. The MC tapped the mic. Tonight, we honor those who built and those who carried the weight of legacy forward. Then they said it, loud, proud. Mr. Oliver Reeves, Hartwell Legacy Heir. Applause, flashbulbs, all them faces turning like I just walked out a myth. And in that moment, I couldn't tell if I wanted to bow or run. For years, they called me absent, lost, too quiet. Tonight, I was a name again, a man with history, not just baggage. But pride don't come easy when you know the truth behind the curtain. As I made my way to the podium, something shifted. The MC leaned into the mic again. We also thank our key sponsor, Mr. Malik Reeves, for his visionary leadership in reopening the clinic. My name, not repeated. My breath caught. Naomi's hand slid to my arm, gripped it firm. I nodded once. Stepped forward anyway. The crowd hushed. I looked out, found a few familiar faces, missing Dana near the back. One of the nurses from the original clinic days, a few elders from the old block, and I spoke. This legacy wasn't his to claim. It's mine to honor. No one clapped, not right away. And that silence, it cut deeper than any shout ever could. Later that night, I sat in the estate library. Wood panel walls, that old clock ticking like it knew secrets too. Jeremiah laid out documents on the table, loan forms, deeds, legal filings. He pointed at the name scrawled across the top. My name, but not my handwriting. Malik had used forged documents, fake loans filed under my identity to get funding. Real money, real debt, but all the weight on my shoulders. He built his reputation on your bones, Jeremiah muttered, jaw tight, and I just sat there, holding that damn broken watch again, thinking back on all the times I paid without question, without credit. Now I was holding the invoice, and it had my name on every line. A car door slammed out front. We both turned. Malik walked in like he owned the damn place, didn't even knock. Funny seeing you here, he said. Thought you preferred ghosting. I stood slow. I built hunger so you could eat. Don't disrespect what you're living off. He scoffed. You weren't there when I needed you. Naomi and Dana watched from the hallway shadows. No one moved. You needed me, I said, voice low. And I was there, just not loud enough for your kind of crowd. You could have stopped me if you were man enough, he snapped. I stepped closer. Then let's make it official. Court. Records. Truth. You ready for that? He stared for a beat too long, then turned and left. No reply. Just the click of his shoes fading down the hall. I didn't feel like I won. I didn't feel anything at all. Until Naomi called me back into the room. She held up Malik's briefcase. He left it. She cracked it open, searching for anything we could use in the fight. Then she found it, hidden in a side flap, a folded sheet sealed in plastic, my signature, dated years ago. A will, one I forgot, one naming Malik sole heir, under conditions I now knew he'd never honored. I took the page, held it up to the light. He thought he erased me, I muttered, but he kept the signatures. And suddenly, I knew this wasn't over. I walked into the Hartwell estate as dusk lingered low, corridors swallowed by shadows. The silence pressed against me, heavy as guilt. Naomi stood at the top of the grand stairs, face steady. Jeremiah checked the security feeds on his tablet, eyes sharp. Tonight would decide everything. I paused before the study, breathing slow. My journey, from being cast out to clawing back a name, rushed before me in fragments. Eviction, betrayal, inheritance, lies. They tried to bury me, I whispered, but I sprouted from their lies. Naomi stepped forward and handed me the sealed envelope she'd carried since Chicago. I recognized the weight of it, ultimatum wrapped in threat. Jeremiah's voice came soft. We caught traffic. Malik's team slipping in and out quietly. I nodded, seated myself at the desk, portraits facing me like silent judges. Hands trembled slightly as I broke the seal. Typed words read, "You have until sunset to accept or be erased from the will." Cold, final. Behind that I found another sheet. Uncle Virgil's handwriting, familiar curves, steady, sorrowful. If you see this, Oliver, it means you chose life over silence. Sign if you believe in truth. My jaw clenched. He had known. Every betrayal, every silence, every time I swallowed pride to protect. This was never about money, I said under my breath. It was about timing. Outside, dusk deepened. Lights glowed along the rooftop gathering. The city pulsed beyond the railings. Malik came out last, stepping into light like he ruled it. Cameras turned. Eyes settled. He smiled and spoke. I built this, with your name as a foundation. But I made it real. I walked forward slow, voice measured. You built smoke and mirrors, Malik. I'll show you the bricks. The crowd murmured. Naomi watched closely. He raised a framed document. It was the forged will with my signature notarized. He signed this years ago, Malik claimed. He gave me everything willingly. Before I could speak, another voice cracked through. Not the man I know. Dr. LaRon Tate emerged. He told them how Oliver Reeves had sent him to medical school, quietly helping. No press, no fanfare. He described how Malik's manipulations traced to diverted clinic funds, hiding under false non-profits with Oliver's name as cover. Shock rippled through the crowd. Cameras shifted, whispers grew. Malik's face changed, control slipping. I felt vindicated, but hollow. Malik gasped, anger tearing through him. He tried to object, to reclaim words, but the crowd blocked him with silence. He stormed off. I watched him go. Not triumphant, not relieved, just still. Naomi slid beside me. LaRon stood strong behind me. Jeremiah came in, voice soft. You've got one more move, Lee. I looked across Harlem's skyline, lights emerging like stars. I didn't come back for vengeance, I said. I came back for justice. And tomorrow, they'll all hear me. The rooftop lights buzzed low behind me as I stood facing the edge of Harlem. The city glittered like 1,000 unspoken truths. I'd called Malik here to end what never should have begun. He showed up in a slick suit, flanked by 2 attorneys. No more swagger, just heat behind his eyes. Naomi stood beside me, arms crossed. Jeremiah to my right, calm like always. They didn't need to speak. Their presence was louder than words. I didn't waste time. Here it is, I said, holding out the folder. Inside, the forgery, bank statements, letters from Dr. Hartwell, LaRon's testimony, signed and sealed. You never built this, I said steady. You rebuilt off my bones. Tonight, I demand full accountability. Malik's laugh came hollow. This ain't court. You think this crowd gonna judge me? They already have, I answered. Around us, whispers rose like smoke. His lawyers shifted, whispering now. One pulled at his sleeve. He ignored them. I gave you chances, Malik, I continued. You burned every bridge and blamed the ashes on me. Don't act clean, Lee. You left. You gave this up. I never gave it to you. He looked to the crowd, then back at me. That's when I stepped forward. I forgive you, I said, voice low but strong, but I will never be your refuge again. The rooftop went quiet. His lips parted. For a second, I saw the boy I once knew, wounded, scrambling. You just pushed me away again, he muttered. I didn't push you. I just never signed up to be your storm shelter. Naomi wiped her eyes beside me. Press cameras caught every angle. That line would end up in tomorrow's papers. I already knew. Malik turned, jaw tight. He walked toward the stairwell. Not fast, not defeated, just done. And I didn't stop him. The crowd stayed still for a long moment. Then they turned toward me. LaRon stepped beside me. You turned pain into purpose. That's legacy. Jeremiah nodded. Time to rebuild. Press release. Clinic. Board. You ready? I didn't answer right away. I looked back at the chair Malik had stood in, still warm. Legacy ain't just what you leave, I said finally. It's how you live what's left. Naomi reached into her purse, pulled out the old watch I thought was lost forever. Polished, still broken, still mine. Let's restore the rest, she said, placing it in my palm. Later that night, I walked alone down the dock. The air had shifted. Softer now. I boarded the yacht, my name now etched on every document that mattered. Hartwell's last inheritance, not just in property, but in truth. I stood at the bow, Wind playing with my coat, city behind me. I thought of what I'd lost, home, pride, even my son, but also what I'd reclaimed, my voice, my dignity, and something more sacred than all of it, peace. I touched my chest. The richest inheritance, I whispered, is the one you never saw coming. Lights of Manhattan danced across the water. My reflection didn't flinch anymore. They knocked on my yacht, I said softly. I answered, but tonight, I sail my own course.